All right, here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown, INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up.
Got it!
Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, people. How are you? Welcome back. It's good to be here after a couple of days off with John gone. And, man, it was perfect timing for me because I think I've got my voice back finally after a couple of weeks. But glad to, or almost all the way, but happy to be here. And most of all, happy to have you with us. Lots to get to. Bob Kravitz on the program today, as always. We'll be joined by Zach Osterman later on and Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload as the Boilers prepare for playing in the Final Four for the first time in 44 years. Rick Bozich on the dais as well. Looking forward to talking to Rick. And lots to get to, peeps. We've got the National Invitational Tournament that concluded in Indianapolis at Hinkle Fieldhouse last night. Unfortunately for Indiana State, it did not go the way the Sycamores would like to have seen as they are defeated by Seton Hall. But it was, man, that was a good run. And a good time had up at Hinkle. We've got the women's Final Four starting tonight with what could be a record-breaking TV viewership game, which probably will be. Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes taking on Paige Beckers and UConn, the Huskies. They've been there a time or two. I think this is like their 23rd or 4th Final Four under Gene Auriemma. Crazy. Then you've got LSU, but versus NC State, but that's not the game that that is going to be the one that draws the attention. And then, of course, if you get Iowa and LSU, well, that's going to be bonkers as well. The men's Final Four as well, starting tomorrow. Purdue taking on North Carolina State, of course. We'll talk about that with Casey when he comes on. How about the woman who caught the ball that Otani hit out? First of all, why was that such a – I can't remember why they said that was a big deal. That was a certain home run of his. But anyway, she felt like she got gypped because the security – she said the security kind of lowballed her and was real forceful, said if she didn't, that they wouldn't authenticate the ball and just crazy stuff like that. But yeah, all kinds of stuff. But all kinds of stuff going on as the way. Kansas City Chiefs player Rashee Rice was the driver of one of the two speeding sports cars who left after causing a chain reaction crash on a Dallas highway over last weekend, driving a Lamborghini. Why do that stuff, man, if you're in that position? I don't get it. But it's easy to these people are still young, I guess. So you gotta I don't know. Crazy. Hey, and how about Trace Jackson Davis? Career high, 20 points on 8 of 10 shooting, 4 rebounds, 4 assists in 28 minutes versus the Houston Rockets. So he's just, his game is getting better and better. And the more he plays, the more confident he gets. So crazy. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to AndyMooreHonda.com to get more to your door and the best of new and used vehicles and the Autograph app. Make sure you go to the Autograph app where fans find great deals on tickets and info, and it has all the information for Indiana all in one spot. You'll find things from Indiana Sports Beat Radio there, as well as the Hoosier.com. And lots of great offers, as a matter of fact. But so we've got all kinds of things going on. Like I said, the Chipotle National Finals semifinals are today after Montverde defeated Arizona Campus Prep 64-49. And Columbus, Florida defeated Long Island Lutheran, which was a pretty good team, but they beat them 71-58. Those two will square off today at 4:30. I'm going to try to be there. That's at Brownsburg High School. And then on the other side, earlier, the game before them will be Link Academy from Missouri. They defeated Prolific Prep of California, who is a very good squad. 80-76 was that score. And then Paul VI out of Virginia is who they'll be playing. They defeated IMG Academy 101-89 in a high-scoring game. So it'll be interesting to see how those games go. But the first semifinal game is at 2:30. So for those of you listening on radio, that game is going on right now. And then Montverde will follow. So I'll be there and hopefully grab some interviews and have that for over the weekend. And you can find that at the Indiana Sports Beat Radio YouTube page. And for those of you following us there, we appreciate you greatly. Brian, Fred from PA, Doug, how are you, sir? Thank you, Doug. And what a great job he did raising money for Doug. You got to type in there who that was for, but it was a great, I know it was for a cancer fundraiser, and he worked hard raising a bunch of items, and they brought in a good chunk of money. So congratulations to you guys, but to Doug for working hard on that. Brian pointing out that in the McDonald's All-Star game, Mr. Tucker, who is coming to Indiana, played 12 minutes, went 1 of 3 with the three-pointers. Liam McNeely, 12 minutes. He got up 6 shots, didn't hit one. And Tucker added 2 steals nicely. McNeely had 4 rebounds and an assist. The All-Star games, man, you can't tell anything from those generally, but good to see Tucker getting involved. Yeah, how about Derek Queen? He had 23 points in 24 minutes, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. He's and I saw the highlights. Boy, and that's one that got away from Indiana. I'm gonna be honest with you. You want to talk about a man in the middle, because that's what he plays. He does not go outside. I went down there and saw them at Montverde this past winter, as you know, and as I've said, he's a post player. He's just a straight up post player, but he's very good, great hands, continues to dominate, at least at his level, and that's pretty good, because that's at the high level. It is a loaded Friday show, baby. Yeah, it was hard not doing them, but I'll be honest with you, it came at a perfect time. I think my voice and myself needed the rest. Heath coming on from Danville. How are you, sir? We appreciate you as always. Gritty says she's missed the show the past couple of days, and we have missed you and everybody else. He saw it on 1380. Russell says he saw it on 1380 AM. It was wonderful and so beautifully cast. Not sure. Hoping you're talking about the show. Bob on from Georgetown, home of the Bearcats, baby. You know, I used to live basically right next to the elementary school there, which is the former high school, which that is the gym that looks just like, it is very, very similar to the Knightstown gym, Hoosier gym. Played in there growing up, man. We would play in there every winter in a rec league that Buddy Purnett, man, he would put together. He was a little short dude, but we would play down at the ballpark in the summer and move it to the school in the winter. But it was fun. All right, Philip, you got me on that one. Frogs no more, rivets no more. I don't get it. I'm too dumb. You have to explain that one to me. Just reading for those on radio, reading some of the comments that are coming on from the YouTube followers, and you can follow us there as well. Just a comment at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Russell, Liam looking at UConn and Kentucky. He thinks he ends up at UConn. Well, that would be a good spot to go. And that's what UConn has done in the last 2 years. But it's not the rookies that have made them great. They fill in. Danny Hurley wins a national championship, loses 3 guys to the NBA, 75% of his scoring, and he comes back with the number 1 team in the country again. That's knowing what you need. That's knowing. You want to talk about having your system and knowing how to fill that? That's how to do that. Because he's done it very, very successfully. RC points out Sarius Scalia won the 3-point contest. RC, when was that? And no shocker.
I want to say it was yesterday.
What was that down at the Final Four? Oh,
Yeah,
down at the women's Final Four contest. Yeah, I didn't see that. Hey, no shocker. That girl can shoot. She can flat out shoot. It shows that she's one of the best 3-point shooters in the country. And maybe that gives her a shot at the next level. I'm not sure if she's big enough. There's a picture of Caitlin Clark standing next to, the girl from Angel Reese from LSU. And she looks like she's 4 inches taller than Caitlin Clark. And I was thinking Clark was like 6 foot at least. But look at the size difference. If you can find that picture of them next to each other, I wish I had it to send to RC, but I was like, wow, I did not realize that. But there's that. Tons of visitors coming into Indiana for basketball. India, first of all, they've reached out to Jalen Blackman. Let's see. Drexel transfer big man Amari Williams is going to be visiting Indiana. Let me get to that one first. Drexel transfer big man Amari Williams, a player Indiana has reportedly shown interest in this offseason, is planning to take a visit with the Hoosiers in the coming weeks, according to a Wednesday afternoon report. The 3-time CAA Defensive Player of the Year also plans to visit St. John's, Creighton, and Florida, per Joe Tipton on 3. Williams is ranked as the number 2 overall player in the Rivals 2024 transfer portal rankings. Be great to get him. He is a 6'10", 265-pound senior. So be a good grit for the Hoosiers to fill in that spot that has been vacated. Those 6'10" big guys, that would be good, especially one that's experienced. But he's not the only guy that Indiana has coming in. Indiana also reportedly to host Stanford transfer guard Kanan Carlisle. He's one of the top players currently available in the transfer portal. According to Joe Tipton, Indiana is set to host him, Carlisle, for a visit in Bloomington April 19th through 21st. That's a long visit. And that's a little 5 weekend. He is going to see everything. Let's see. He'll miss that is just after the IU football spring game, which is on the 18th, which is a Thursday. But so that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But man, he's going to see little 5. That's a time to see it. He was selected to the Pac-12 all-freshman team for his efforts last season. So he's a younger guy. And if Indiana could get him and keep him, that would give you stability. He's a point guard, 6'3", good size for a point guard. In his first and only season with Stanford, he averaged 11.5 points, almost 3 assists, and almost 3 rebounds per game. He's a former top 60 recruit and was relatively inefficient in his first collegiate season. I don't know what that means. He shot 38.6%. That's not inefficient to me. And 32% from behind the arc on 4.3 attempts per game. So he's putting the ball up and he's hitting them. He hits almost 77.6% of his free throws. So he's good there. That would be a good get for Indiana. You've got a guy who's got some experience playing, but he's also young enough where you could possibly keep him around for a couple of years. Now that's a great get, to be honest with you. He played previously for Overtime Elite during the 22-23 season. He averaged 11 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds for them. But we'll see about that. But many others as well. Tony Perkins has included Indiana in his final 6 schools. Of course, the former Warren Central guard that went to Iowa. The other schools on that list: Missouri, Oregon, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. I'd have to say out of those programs, Indiana should seem to stand out. He's a 4-year Big Ten veteran with the Hawkeyes. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. He's a shooting guard. Of course, Indiana needs that very desperately. And to have somebody with Indiana roots would be good. But again, he's just a 1-year guy. All this you can find at thehoosier.com, of course. But that's not all. Also, Kentucky transfer, Adu Thiero. Man, there's all kinds of names. He's a forward, reportedly heard from Indiana since the projected first-round pick in the next year's draft entered the portal. His list of schools included Miami, Gonzaga, Creighton, Ohio State, and many others that have shown interest. We've got to take a break. The great Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.com is waiting. And we'll be back with him and lots more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Autograph. Yeah, make sure you go there. And we'll be back with more right after this. Hello, Robert.
Good morning.
What is on that hat, man? That's a new one. I haven't seen that one.
Seattle Kraken.
Oh, the Kraken. You might have worn
a lot of sweat stains on it from golf.
Hey, man, that means it's just about right where you want it.
It's juicy.
Ooh.
Eee.
How you been playing some?
No, not yet. We might play after the Eclipse on Monday before Purdue UConn, if that's what happens.
I believe I'm going to make my first effort to play, although I shouldn't. My knee is just freaking killing me. I got a cortisone shot last week.
No, those always work.
Well, a week and a half ago. They usually do. Not this time. And I'm like, uh-oh.
That's not
I'm
good.
like, uh-oh. I was like, that probably means a tear to me.
Yeah.
Because I thought it worked kind of good last time, but not this time. But I might be playing during the Eclipse, which that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to stop for a few minutes because it's going to be dark.
So will everyone else, so we won't have to hold anybody up.
Right.
Now, can you take a picture of the Eclipse? I know you can't look at it.
I have no idea. I don't know my Eclipse rules of engagement.
All right, guys, we go live, and I don't see how taking a picture would hurt anything. But anyway, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this beautiful Friday. It's not really beautiful. It's a little cold and dampy outside, but that's okay. It's Bob Kravitz is with us, so that's what makes it so beautiful from bobkravitz.com. Make sure you go there, follow, be a subscriber like me, and stay up to date on everything. Right now, a lot of Purdue information coming out, Robert.
Yeah, a lot of Purdue. I'm writing it right now. I was at the Indiana State Seton Hall NIT game last night, and I'm writing it right now because it makes no sense to post a story at 2:00 in the morning. So that was great theater. I don't know if you saw the game, but
I intended to go. I went to the semifinal games.
Okay.
But I was not able to make it back up. I didn't feel well enough to go. So
great game. But they blew it. They had a 7-point lead with about a minute and a half left. And Josh Schertz after the game was like, maybe I should have taken the air out of the ball. At the same time, they got a couple of good looks, early in the shot clock, and they went for the kill shot and it never happened. And if you don't kill Seton Hall, they're going to come back and bite you.
Yeah, and it's easy always to second guess yourself. But when I was watching part of that game, man, Seton Hall just kept making good runs. They would answer, and I did not see the end. Unfortunately, I fell asleep. But that again, apparently, RC was telling me another run by Seton Hall, but what a great game.
9-0.
What a great game. Well, at least it wasn't 30-0.
That's true. No, they played well. I mean, that game could have gone either way, but now we concentrate on Purdue, and I'm looking at the quote sheets from yesterday, and it's all the storylines that you would expect. What's it like to be so tall?
Really? Boy.
There are a bunch of questions about it. Was really interesting actually talking to Zach about growing up, freakishly tall and some of the obstacles he's run into besides low doors. He was saying that when he was in 6th grade, he was over 6 foot tall, and he'd go trick-or-treating. And the people
say, probably get mad.
No. You're way too old to be trick-or-treating, son. He's like, I'm in 6th grade.
So they trick-or-treat in Canada? I didn't know that.
What's that?
I didn't know they trick-or-treated in Canada.
Oh, sure they do. It's apparently Halloween is a thing in Canada. Learn something new every day.
He should have gone as Zach Edey.
Yeah, well, he was in 6th grade, so that kind of takes that out of the equation. They're asking him about how he's officiated. They're asking Painter how Edey is officiated. Some interesting stuff. I wish I was there, but you didn't pay my way, so the heck with it.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear that.
I could have been your correspondent.
Yeah, there's that. I didn't pay my own way, so I hear you.
I know. It's a bummer, but just starting to get the site going and no money.
Next year. But everything was so close this year, except for that. The NIT, of course, at Henkel Fieldhouse, the Division II and III national championships were held in Indiana. One up in Fort Wayne, the 3 and the 2 was down in Evansville. So, and an NCAA tournament site in Indianapolis. So we were very, very fortunate this year to have so much of this stuff around us. First of all, tonight, you've got the women's Final Four and Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers. We've already had Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. And I just saw a picture earlier of Caitlin Clark standing next to Angel Reese. And I was like, damn. Reese is like 3 to 4 inches taller than Clark.
She's
I
just
didn't.
a girl, yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize that there was that much difference, but it didn't
Wouldn't
matter.
surprise me if Beckers goes off tonight.
Well, she's going to have to for
She's gonna have-
UConn to win.
Yeah,
Not that would be a shocking upset, but if Iowa wins a national championship, it's not going to be an easy one.
No, I mean, my God, South Carolina, are you kidding me? Undefeated 2 years in a row.
Indiana did show that they're beatable, man. They gave them all they wanted and
Yeah.
just that close. Sarah Scalia won the 3-point shooting contest down
That's
there.
good.
But they were that close, just not quite good enough to get past them. But they gave them a run for the money.
Yeah, first they got to beat UConn. I think I have incredible admiration for Gino Auriemma, and and Paige Beckers. If she hadn't gotten hurt, they would be talking about her in the same breath as Caitlin Clark. I can promise you that.
Yeah, and then Angel Reese is going to hit the WNBA draft. So both of those, along with Caitlin Clark, they'll probably go 1-2. And that'll be interesting. As women's basketball starting, it's growing, man. This TV audiences, and this is going to only add to that.
It's just like last year with Caitlin Clark versus Aaliyah Boston. There's a bird magic element to this. Look, women's basketball, if I'm being totally honest, was never appointment viewing for me. If there was an interesting game or an IU game, I'd go out of my way to watch it. I'm telling you, me and my wife, we're going to go find some place to grab a beer tonight if we can stay awake that late and watch Caitlin versus Paige.
Are they the matinee game?
Yeah, they're the 9 o'clock game.
Or marquee game, rather.
Marquee. Oh, absolutely. So, excuse me. So yeah, we're gonna definitely take the time to watch that, and then of course the NCAA games this weekend.
Liam McNeely, also his services are still out for bidding, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Someone said don't count out Dusty May in Michigan, but I don't see him doing that because he's going to go to a program that's ready to go. He does not plan on being in college longer than a year,
right?
Maybe 2. So he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. I saw that UConn is a potential landing spot. I said, well, that would not surprise me at all.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him at Maryland. Derek Queen, who is the real deal, his teammate at Montverde going there. And those teams are playing at Brownsburg today.
Totally, yeah.
Which I'm going to try to make definitely the second game, which is Montverde, as they play in the semifinals today up there. And so we've got that going on too that I forgot about.
A lot of hoops. It's Indiana, baby. It's springtime.
Oh my gosh, this is more than even usual. But yeah, very, very fortunate. Then so besides the women's, then we have the men's Final Four, of course. Purdue trying to win their first ever national championship in the Final Four for the first time in 44 years. And Zach has had this tunnel vision look the whole time, but they're beatable. And it's not stopping Zach Edey. It's how you play him, but it's more importantly, everybody else. If you can stop everybody else or slow them down or prevent them from getting the ball in comfortably, that's how you're going to beat Purdue. And if you don't, you're probably not.
Zach's going to get his. The only way you beat Purdue is you have to hope that they shoot 2 of 13 or whatever it was.
Like they did against.
Like they did. And that was what was so impressive about the win over the team they just beat. Yeah.
Yes, I'm drawing a blank on that as well. But yes, it was
Tennessee. Thank you.
And yes, and
they shot 2 of I think 13 and still won by 6-8 points. So,
but that was a close game. That was a game.
Very close game. I think they're gonna put away North Carolina State. I think North Carolina State's one of those joyriding teams. They were like 17-15 or 15-13 at one point, and they've now won 9 straight games during this miracle run. So you got to be careful with them. But I don't see the big kid DJ Burns going off against either Edie or TKR. I mean, I think Trey Kaufman-Renn could spend a little time on DJ Burns. I don't know, but that's just my guess.
He could defend him as well. DJ Burns, let's be honest, he's a little overweight.
A little bit.
He's a little overweight for a basketball player, but the dude has got quick feet. He's got some really good moves, but Zach Edey will just swallow his shots unless he is stepping back and shooting over him.
Right.
That's why I think that Trace Kaufman-Renn would have a little more problems because he could get around him. But Edey's not going to do anything but be a big old tree and block those shots, in my opinion.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Shoot. I haven't had my coffee.
Here, have a sip of mine.
I was going to say something.
But DJ Burns and North Carolina State, it's been a hell of a run. It's been an unbelievable run. It's the run just like back in, was it 83?
83.
Yeah, with Jim Valvano. And them beating the Dream or Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler, that's not possible. That wasn't possible.
Just like Villanova beating Georgetown in '85. Remember that game?
That's another one. What they shooting that game? 80%?
Shot like 75% or something. Insane.
It was nuts. But both North Carolina State win from '83. It was not possible that they beat that Houston team. You're not going to beat Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon. These are two what you would call, they were held top 5 picks probably.
Oh, no doubt.
Purdue doesn't have that. They don't have Clyde Drexler. Braden Smith is a good point guard out there, but he's not Clyde Drexler. But he's done a great job. And unless you stop him or anybody else from making those threes, that's your only shot at Purdue, I think.
I just think there's an air of inevitability around the fact that Purdue and UConn are going to play in the championship. I just think these two teams have been the best two teams in the nation, along with Houston, all season long. They've kind of been circling each other, and I think we're going to get what we want. And that game, all bets are off. I mean, that's a great big man matchup between Edey and Klingon.
Oh yeah,
that's one to look forward to. And the funny thing is, for years we've heard that the NCAA tournament is a guards tournament, and it is. But you look in this tournament, in this Final Four, 3 of the 4 teams have really good big men. So this is a little bit of a throwback to a previous era when it comes to the style of play being employed.
Yeah, but Donovan Klingon is a different kind of a big man too, though. He's more mobile than Edey, and that's what last year Trace Jackson Davis, who last night had a career high 20 points in the NBA on 8 of 10 shooting, but last year Trace Jackson Davis, he didn't dominate Zach Edey, but he didn't have to. He scored. He got his. Indiana was able to beat them with Jalen Hood-Schifino at point guard because Purdue did not provide the ancillary help needed to win those games. So, that's how you beat Purdue, just like Indiana did last year.
Well, what beats Purdue is that high pick and roll where the guy gets the ball or takes the ball to the elbow, and Zach Edey is always in drop coverage. And if you can get some space, you can get that 15-foot shot from the elbow every single time. I was talking with Fran Fraschilla last night at the Indiana State game, and he brought that up to me. He said, every time you run that high pick and roll, you get a good look from the elbow. And if you can hit those and you can hit your floaters in front of Edey, you got a chance against Purdue. If you don't, good night, everybody.
Yep. Indiana has a lot of people coming in for visits, Bob, as they're trying to fill out their roster, including, well, Jalen Blackman's not scheduled to visit yet, but they have reached out to talk to him. In addition to a ton of other guys. Tony Perkins, one of those guys, has got, I think, Indiana in his final 6 or something. But they've got this will probably be the best job that Mike Woodson has done, because it has to be.
It has to be.
I think that the pressure, there's no doubt to me, he knows the pressure, that he knows that they have not put out. It's not something that would be admitted, but they have not put out the kind of team that is what I call elite.
Not even close.
But they have a potential to do that next year if they get these pieces that they're looking at, because they have a good core.
The hard part is getting all those guys to play together. I mean, you know, that's what's so wonderful about the Purdue thing. You know, they've only had 2 transfers in 4 years. They bring in high school kids. They redshirt a lot of them. There's continuity. Get old and stay old. And you know what Woody is trying to do is the way things are done now. You know, the way things are done in the modern day. You bring in your guys off the transfer portal and you pray that they'll play well together. I mean, it worked for Butler. You know, they didn't make the NCAA tournament, but they had a nice season with all transfers. So, you know, I mean, it's quite a transformation in 1 year, but we're going to find out what kind of coach Woody is.
And then someone just asked, Sean, where does Bryson Tucker fit in on the Indiana team? He's a 5-star. Surely he would expect to start. Well, probably. If Mac plays Mackenzie Mbako plays the 3 and Malik's playing the 4, which means you'd have to get somebody else brought in to play the 5. You can move Malik to the 4, to the 5 if you need to be.
Oh, yeah. He's played the 5.
He could play that easy.
Better as a 4, but that's just, you know.
But Sean says that Tucker's not a 3-point shooter. So where does he fit in? Well, right now they've got at the 2, you've got tag on it. I'm drawing a blank. I've been off for 2 days. My mind's gone bad. The kid from, you know, who was the 2 spot last year?
Galloway.
Trey Galloway. Trey Galloway's not what I'd call a 3-point shooter. So
heavens no.
So this is a step up regardless. And with the quickness, with the athletic ability, and then you add a point guard next to that, man, that opens up your offense, period.
There was some word at the ISU game last night that Conwell might be a guy that Indiana's interested in.
Where's he? Who's he with?
With Indiana State.
Conwell?
Yeah.
What about Larry Nerd?
Well, he's probably most of that team is going to end up in St. Louis.
Are they going to follow him? Man, yeah. that dude, I was at the semifinal game. He's what, 6'8"? Not the most athletic guy in the world, but let me tell you, he can shoot from behind the arc. I saw him do it very comfortably.
Oh yeah, he's a fun player to watch. He's got a little Jokic to his game. I mean, very little Jokic, but he's got the dad bod. He's got the goggles. I mean, he was on the McAfee show. All those guys. It was a great run for Indiana State. But yeah, I mean, I think. He's a wonderful player. What a great passer. They did a great job last night. Seton Hall did, taking away those back cuts. I only saw about 2 of them the entire game.
Speaking of St. Louis, Josh Schertz, who is expected now, is it official? Has he officially taken that job?
Not official yet. It's just
see. All right, that's what makes this so weird. Louisville, they were convinced that they had Dusty May,
right.
And then I believe that Schertz and Dusty May they spoke, and I don't know that he realized that he was not going to take that job because Louisville apparently reached out to Schertz as well, and then I was told that he had, unbeknownst to anyone, signed with St. Louis. Why would you go to St. Louis? That seems like a lateral move.
No. You know how much he makes at
356, baby. $356,000.
You know how much he's going to make at St. Louis?
I do not.
$2 million a year.
Okay, you know how much he would have made at Louisville?
Oh, I understand that, but do we really know that Louisville wanted to hire him?
Well, that's not. That is not stuck in stone, but
okay,
yeah. So that means Indiana State is going to have to get into the ball game, man, if they plan to play at this level.
Well, they still. At least when I did a story on Greg Lansing a couple of years ago, and at the time they had the lowest basketball budget in the Missouri Valley. And I don't imagine it's much better now. I think they're probably still in the bottom tier in terms of spending, if not last. So Indiana State is in a really, really tough place to win. And you can ask Greg Lansing about that. He had success, but it was hard won. So Indiana State's going to have to spend the money if they, that's the thing too, is all of a sudden now you can get Avila and all these guys, Swope, you can get them NIL money that wasn't available at Indiana State. So I think he's walking into a much better situation.
Any way that Indiana State can come up with the money to keep him?
No, it's $2 million. They're not going to.
Well, also, I'm under the impression that he has already signed a deal.
Well, I mean, he may have.
I say that because I had heard that already previously because of the Louisville thing, that they did not realize that he had signed a deal with St. Louis and was gone. And number two, when I was at the NIT game the other night, some ISU older guys that were there talking to someone next to me said that they believed that they had raised the money to be able to buy him out of the buyout to St. Louis.
Right.
Whether that's true or not.
Well, I'm sure he made a verbal commitment. I can't imagine that he signed on the dotted line or that he would have coached the last couple of games here if he had signed on the dotted line. I asked him about it after the game. I don't expect complete honesty, but he said, I'll have a decision by the weekend and make it official which way I'm going to go.
Well,
but then last night I saw tweets saying he's already accepted. So it's pretty much a done deal. That's
what I saw. Well, what's done deal with you, brother? What's up next?
Well, like I say, I'm writing the Indiana State piece today. I'll do some Purdue stuff. We got the Final Four this weekend. Might do something on the rise of women's basketball. Lots going on around here. I might even.
What happens with women's basketball after this year? After Clark is gone, is Paige Becker's gone?
I don't know.
Angel Reese is gone, so they're going to need somebody to carry those torches that have been going up to continue that. Hey, make sure you're giving Bob Kravitz a follow at bobkravitz.com and sign up there just to be a subscriber. It's nothing. It's easy to do, man.
It's easy. Piece of cake.
Plus, he's a Kraken. Got the Kraken going on.
Seattle Kraken, baby.
I need to get a Whalers hat. I saw a guy wearing a hat on the show last night. I'm like, look at that. He's got Bob's hat on, the Whalers.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, my friend.
All right, buddy. Be well.
Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.com. Make sure you give him a follow. Sign up to be caught up on all things in Indiana and national sports. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For all those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back right after this. Boy, I'm so used to hearing music or something there. It blows my mind. RC.
Yeah, no, I have nothing.
You know what? We should have John just insert all the different commercial blocks into like just where the like it.
I know they used to have the "Be Right Back" in there at least, and that's not even in there. So I don't know what happened. But yeah, there's only the intro, outro. But that would be nice just to have them over on the side. It'd make it easier for me when editing because it'd already be there.
Yeah. Well, that's something we'll bring. Make sure you will bring that up.
Okay, that's a good point.
For Iowa to beat South Carolina, Clark needs 50. Well, I don't know that that's true because Iowa's got a good team. Now, I think they've got one of their best players injured, and I'm not sure. Russell, that's not far off. He's not really a rim protector. Well, I'm just saying, not saying he's the guy at the 5. He could play the 5 though.
Hi, Russell. It's the Pixies. It's that band, the 80s band, 90s band. They sing the song.
Oh man.
Where is my mind? At the end of Fight Club, the song that's playing when the building collapses, that's a Pixies song.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah, so you have an open segment here?
Yeah, but it's just short.
Okay. So we can shorten the segment to catch back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. That's why take that segment long. That's a nice long segment.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about there.
Okay, makes sense. I'll go ahead and count you in here. And
you can look at it during totality, really?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'm
not. I'm going to be using the glass.
I'm not going to test it.
Yeah, me either, man.
You try it. Let me know how it goes. But I'm gonna count you in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday of a unbelievable bonanza sports weekend. The NIT just concluded at Hinkle Fieldhouse last night in Indianapolis with Seton Hall defeating Indiana State to end their wow, what a Cinderella season they had. Congratulations to all of those, to the Sycamores for an incredible year. Unfortunately, it didn't end that in the way that they wanted to, but a great run nonetheless. We'll see what happens with Josh Schertz if he ends up at St. Louis, which is the belief that is going to happen, and what happens with the remainders of their team. With Dusty May going to Michigan, did his 2 guys follow him for sure yet? Golden at the center and the guard from up from Gary, daggone it, John L. Davis. So we'll see. But also, we've got the eclipse on Monday. We've been talking about it, and I was like, can you even take a picture of that with your phone? I looked it up. It said, you could possibly damage the sensor. So I'm not going to, there are going to be enough pictures taken by NASA or whomever, so I'll just take one of those. Kareem Abdul-Clank. Not sure if I agree with that one, Brian. She's a pretty damn good shooter. Milk Chamberlain went sour the last 90 seconds. That's funny. Not sure. I know he's talking about Indiana State, maybe. Sean says Tucker's a great talent. He loved that he chose Indiana, but he is not sure he was selected for his fit, but instead his talent. That was the same mistake made last year. But yeah, but you have to have talent, and you have to have talent in abundance. You have to have it. Not you can't be 5 deep. You need to be 8 deep in talent, at least, because you cannot have 5 talented guys on the court, and then especially if Woody goes back to his. That's the scary thing. If Indiana does get deep, is that you see this hockey lineup exchange again. If he goes back to that instead of what we see generally from everybody else, but talent is what you have to have, man. Yeah, it has to work together and it has to fit, and that's what a coach's job is. You've got to get that to work together. You have got to manage that and get that together. But you have to have the talent, period. And there's no question about that. Again, Trey Galloway, hard-working kid, but he's not an elite starter. He's not a starter on an elite team. Let me just say that. He is not a starter for an elite team. He would be great coming off of the bench because he's going to not make a lot of mistakes. He has learned how to facilitate the ball. He's not a three-point shooter, but he can get to the rim, not in the way that it's not that he has this unbelievable athletic burst, but he has the intelligence. His basketball IQ is probably the best on Indiana's team. And so that means something. But you've got to have talent across the board and not just 5 deep. When you have a guy come off the bench, he better be talented. Look at Purdue. That's part of the reason they're going as far as they are. The biggest reason is the big reason. There's no doubt about that. But he can't do that alone, and he hasn't done it alone. And even when they've been shut down like Tennessee did, they managed to overcome it. But that's also because Zach Edey scored, 40 points in that game? So it's a pick your poison type of deal. But tomorrow the Final Four happens. North Carolina State and Purdue. And then, of course, UConn playing it as well. I don't see anyone beating UConn, and that includes Purdue. It's going to be very interesting if UConn and Purdue end up playing in the national championship game, which is what most of us expect to happen, of course. What is UConn going to do with Zach Edey? But what is Purdue going to do with UConn's level of talent that they have around Donovan Clingan? What's Purdue going to do with Clingan? I think that's the difference maker. Donovan Clingan is to UConn what Trace Jackson Davis was to Indiana last year, an athletic big, and he's a 7-footer. I think 7'2". So he's going to give Edey problems. He has to stay out of foul trouble. Will be the biggest issue for him, because Edey has a penchant for drawing fouls, mainly because of his size. But Clingan doesn't have to foul him to defend him. But just because you don't doesn't mean you always get away with that. Ethan says that Coach Yao tweeted he's happy about something, possibly Rice commit soon. Sean says he likes Ricey, but I also like the Cornwell kid from ISU. It's like I said, Indiana is obviously doing a much better job this year. They cast a much wider net of guys that they were looking at, and you can tell that finally it got through. The message got through that the talent level wasn't there. And that you can't rely on one guy at any position. You can't rely on Xavier to be the one and only point guard. He got hurt. You can't rely on Kel'el Ware to be the guy. He did a great job, but there were games he disappeared. Mackenzie Ibaka, it took him most of the season to really get acclimated and comfortable to where he was performing at the level that I think everyone expected from the start, which may not be fair. But he did get to that level. So that is something that you have to look forward to. You've got Malik Renew, which is more than solid at the 4. He's going to be hard for guys to guard. So Indiana, all they need, and you've got Tucker coming in. They're going to get some good pieces. There's too many that they're talking to this time that are good. And it's not one guy. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. That is the biggest thing. That is what they did last year. All their eggs in one basket in the recruiting. When you look at all the different guys that they're talking to, all the different guys that are coming to visit, like I said, Tony Perkins including them in their final visit, which, again, he's going to be a one-year guy. You certainly prefer to see guys that have 2, potentially 3 years of eligibility left, but that's not always – you just want the best players. And the game has changed. You need the best players. We've got to take a break. We've got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio in the next hour. Zach Osterman joins us along with Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload and Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Back with more right after this. That's the hard break, RC. Unless you're going to use the second hour.
You break on time.
Yeah, but I mean, it might. It doesn't matter to me. But the second hour obviously is going to have 3 guests. So
okay, yeah, I can just use the second hour.
Now, when you do that for them, how do you start it?
I just put the intro in and then.
Okay, you're able to
say welcome. Yeah, I have those I have those separate, and then you're able, and then you just say welcome back, which to me sounds like welcome back to another episode. You know what? I can
on this. I will. I'll kind of do a very same intro as the
okay
as the normal.
That makes sense. Are we waiting on somebody to hop on here?
It would be Zach.
Okay. I did get an automatic reply from his email that he's out of office or something. So I wonder if I'm sure he's checked his email.
I can text him real quick and see if I hear from him. Well, ping pong. Come on, man. Come on, man. ZACH.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Oh, never mind.
I'll let you say hi, and then I'll count you in.
Oh, perfect.
Hey, sorry, my camera's doing something this morning. I'm not sure what's going on.
It's all right. I wish mine did something a lot of times. How have you been, man?
Good, you?
Well, I've been sick. Boy, daggone. And then sick for 2 weeks, so didn't have a voice. And then I went to the NIT semis, and I got home and I had the chills. And boy, I didn't get out of bed for 2 days. We didn't have a show scheduled because John's gone. Luckily, it kind of worked out, but feeling better now.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. I mean, I had something in my throat or my chest. I couldn't cough out for.
That was exactly what I had. Could not get it gone. It was driving me insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I took a damn COVID test too. I'm like going, it came back negative, luckily, but.
Yeah, no, I had something I couldn't cough out for however long.
Do you have allergies?
Yeah.
See, I didn't grow up with them. And then when I got them, I didn't realize it for the longest time. I'm like, I thought I had a cold. And then now every year when that happens, I'm thinking, oh, I must have a cold. Oh, no, dumbass, you have allergies. But nothing was working though. And nothing I was taking was helping. I'm like, daggone, the squirt stuff was making it worse. Flonase wasn't helping.
All right, guys. I'm going to count you in here in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. I'm so glad to have you. Another great show. Great to be back. Zach Osterman on with us today, as well as Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload, Rick Bozich from WDOB.com as well. Zach Osterman with us now. Zach, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
I cannot complain. It's great to be back here. We've so much going on, Zach. It is absolutely nuts. If we just had the recruiting for Indiana to look at, it would be enough to keep you busy. But you've got that. You've got the NIT that just finalized last night with Indiana State losing to Seton Hall. The Final Four tonight with the women in a marquee matchup, Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers. Then tomorrow, Purdue is in their first Final Four in 44 years. And of course, Indiana is recruiting all over the place with guys visiting and talking to different guys. So there is a ton. Oh, and the Chipotle Nationals that are going on at Brownsburg High School. So it's incredible, everything that's happening right now. Enough to keep you busy. But right now for Indiana, they're focused on recruiting. And I was talking a minute ago, Zach, and Indiana has cast a much, much wider net this year, and you can tell that either the pressure or whatever, the noise was heard because their approach this year is much different. It's not the all eggs in one basket approach, and there are a lot of different guys that they've reached out to. There are a lot of guys that are coming in for visits to fill these needs. So you can tell this is a much different approach by Mike Woodson and his staff this year.
Well, I mean, it's also, we're saying they've got a lot more holes to fill. I mean, they had some substantial roster turnover last season, but I mean, if we sit here and count, I mean, they've already added one player for next year and still have 6 scholarships open. So there's also just an extent to which they just need this many spots. They need to fill a lot of different sort of roles in terms of, maybe in terms of what they need, backcourt depth, probably some help defensively in the front court, probably okay on the wings, but you're looking for more shooting. But then there's also the extent to which, again, they need bodies, they need to fill out a full team. So I think there is also a very real, just kind of, sort of a clear and present need to I mean, you say not be maybe quite so picky, but like when you got more spots to fill, it's not just that you're just sort of like trying to take guys as quick as you can, but when you got more spots to fill, that usually means you're able to, basically fit more guys into your dynamic. If there's fewer minutes spoken for, then you've got more options. You don't have to be so targeted and say, well, we need a player who can do, exactly this set of things, because realistically We don't really have room for a heck of a lot else in a certain part of our rotation. When you only have half a roster, you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of saying, if we target this guy, then we'll do, if we target this guy and he commits to us, then we'll be able to do this with our guard rotation, for example. But then the flip side is, if he doesn't commit, but this guy over here does instead, then we'll do something completely different. The point is there's a lot to do, but there's also more of a blank canvas for Indiana. They don't maybe feel like they have to be so targeted. They probably will at some point. If they can get 4 or 5 guys in, then you're looking for maybe a more confined kind of role. But for the moment, it is a bit of a blank canvas.
And this season, it's a little different as far as what they have coming back, as far as the guys filling those same roles were last year. You had Trace Jackson Davis, who would go on to the NBA. And as I mentioned earlier, a 20-point night last night, a career high for him. So he is playing very, very well. Indiana brings back Malik Renew, who is a shooter. It took him a large part of the season to find his groove, so to speak, but he found it. And to have that coming back is a very, very positive sign for Indiana. You've got Malik Renew, who is solid at his position, but you've got those other spots that have to be filled, and they didn't have to, or at least think that they had to fill that point guard spot as well as they do this year. They have to hit that twice, in my opinion. I think they need 2 good point guards out of this rotation, in addition to another shooter at the 2 spot, which I know that they're working on. But you add Bryson Tucker from the 2024 class, so they've got good guys coming, good pieces coming back and coming in. And it looks like they're on a much better path to filling roles this year than they were last year. But whether that ends up being the case or not, we'll have to see how successful they are doing that.
Yeah, I agree with shooting. I also, listen, Mike Woodson's not going to announce his plans. And maybe some of this also comes back into the question about basically who you get in the door. If there is another Kalel Ware type impact 5 out there, then that probably changes the way you approach your rotation. If there's not, if you feel like you're maybe more targeting guys who are going to help you defensively, rebounding the ball, sort of good at both rims, essentially, then maybe part of the plan is to try and move Malik Renew to the 5. He's a little undersized, but if you give him a year to kind of, really dig into the concepts he needs to at both ends of the floor. I know he's got foul trouble. I think I'm not sure it is airtight, but I think there's a compelling argument for the idea he'd get in less foul trouble if he defended the 5 and he wasn't pulled away from the rim quite so much. That if you weren't asking him to defend smaller 4s, he might commit fewer fouls. Again, I'm not necessarily saying I think that argument is absolute and complete, but I think there is some case for it.
And is the reason to keep him out of the 5 role? Someone mentioned earlier he's not a great rim protector.
I mean, I think the problem you have with Malik Renew is he's not shown the ability to be an elite rim protector, or frankly, a high level rebounder. He's a good rebounder, but he's not necessarily. He's not at the level that Trace Jackson Davis or Kalel Ware. If you want to look at like a Race Thompson, who obviously kind of has goes on a bit of a journey through his career. And his role changes, and obviously he's got injuries and things. Renew's never really rebounded, even maybe at the rate that Race Thompson did at his best. So I think you would be having some conversations, especially if that meant, sliding Bryson Tucker into the 3 and moving Mackenzie Mbako to the 4. I think that would mean some serious conversations about basically where you are defensively. Now, I know people, and I've obviously not seen him play in person, but I know people do speak well of Bryson Tucker's defensive ability. For a player of his age, that for an incoming freshman, he is better defensively than the average. And you've already got Trey Galloway back. If you can, bolster that guard rotation, then maybe you can get into a place where you feel like you just aren't quite so reliant on that rim protecting threat as the defense has been the last 2-3 years. The one area that I will say, like the narrative kind of loses me as point guard. I don't understand people who say Indiana needs basically a starting point guard. Indiana has a starting point guard, and I'm not saying Indiana doesn't need another point guard, because
now,
I think
is that you talking about Gabe Cupps?
No, I'm talking about Trey Galloway. Trey Galloway finished last season with the 6th highest assist rate in Big Ten play of any player in the conference. He had a higher Big Ten only assist rate than Yogi Ferrell ever posted in his career. He had 3 games of 11 or more assists. Michael Lewis had 3 games of 11 or more assists in his career, and he's one of the best point guards justifiably in Indiana history. He's a great player. He's an outstanding player. Trey Galloway had 3 games of 11 or more assists in 2 weeks. The only thing holding Trey Galloway back from being a genuine all Big Ten caliber player last season, the only 2 things were, number one, he didn't really step into that role until midseason because Xavier Johnson got injured. Number 2, he landed on the basically the bottom end of the variance model for his shooting regression, because I think we could all see that he probably, once he was going to get more volume and once he was going to have a larger offensive role, he probably wasn't going to shoot 46% from behind the 3-point line. But I mean, he regressed basically to more or less he goes from 65 attempts as a junior to 100 attempts from behind the arc as a senior. And he regresses basically about as far to the extreme as he can. He goes from 46.2% to 26%. He goes from 47.1% in Big Ten play to 23.5%. And yet he still averages 10.6 points per game. And he still finishes better than he has at any point in his career. I can make you an argument that his rebounding numbers could improve. Obviously, I'm sure he would like to shoot better from the free throw line. But for a guy to post the numbers he did from an assist perspective, whether you're averaging them per game, whether you're doing the tempo free stuff, I mean, he was a revelation for Indiana last season. There was a reason why Indiana people were so stressed when he couldn't play in the Big Ten tournament. And I'm not saying that he's the difference between winning or losing a game against Nebraska that obviously got, very out of hand. But my point here is Indiana has a starting point guard. I'm not saying it doesn't need another one, or at very least, I think when you see Indiana looking at guys like Jalen Blackman, for example, maybe a little bit of Connor Hickman. I caught some Bradley games here and there. Guys like that at the mid to low major level that just score a lot. They aren't necessarily point guards, but they'll be comfortable with the ball in their hands. Lance Jones is this way for Purdue. He's not a point guard, but he's comfortable with the ball in his hands, because if you're that capable of a scorer at the mid to low major level, even if you're not the out and out point guard, your team's just going to put the ball in your hands a lot because they're going to run so much of the offense through you. I think it's okay to sort of, if you're looking at a Miles Rice or a Tony Perkins and just sort of saying, hey, we always want that depth of ball handling ability. You think about 2 years ago, Xavier Johnson, Jalen Hood-Schifino with Trey Galloway kind of in behind them. Last year, Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway with Gabe Cupps, Mike Woodson probably wasn't able to protect him quite as much as he wanted to because of Johnson's injuries. But with Cupps kind of coming up behind them, I think if you look at that, you would like maybe a third out-and-out sort of point guard type player. But Indiana's already got one that is frankly as good as anybody, I suspect, they could sign out of the portal. And it's kind of the classic case of, if I took Trey Galloway's numbers and I put them on, I don't know, I'd have to go look through like the SEC standings, but a team that finished 500 in the SEC last year, and he was a 5th-year player, and he had some shooting concerns, but his assist rate was what it was. His points average was what it was. His turnover rate was what it was. And you were able to break into his single game performances and look at them, you'd be thrilled if you were Indiana recruiting that player out of the portal. You've already got him on the roster. And I just think that while I don't think necessarily Indiana wants to be in a position where Trey Galloway has to create 11, 12 assists in a game next season, they want more, sort of spread the load more. I do think people don't appreciate quite what Indiana's got in Trey Galloway from a point guard perspective.
And I agree with that, especially with how you've laid it out. And his experience is you can't buy that literally. Well, I guess you could, but You can't buy that with your team. He's been at Indiana the whole time, so in the system and everything. So that's something that you can't buy even today, which that's saying something. And I didn't really think about him staying at the point guard position, but now that how you've laid it out, I agree 100%. But they still need, I think, a guy right behind him that can do the things that he does very similarly, so you don't have that drop off when if he has to come out of the game for whatever reason the case may be. Indiana, they had so much problems with drop off last year with bringing after you bring the starters out.
Well, and again, I would also say I don't think you want to be in a position where you have to put quite so much on Trey Galloway's plate. Like that's the flip side to this is someone who will, kind of stand on Trey Galloway's impact last season. I don't think Indiana wants to be in a position where, again, like I think, Indiana would probably be better. Trey Galloway, frankly, might be better if you're not asking him to, to hand out 12 assists in a game. Because that's a heavy offensive load to put on a player that you want to shoot a little bit better than he did last year and that you need defensively. That is, especially with Xavier Johnson now gone for good. We know he can't come back. There's no more, extension of eligibility or anything. Trey Galloway is your most important perimeter defender. And I think that, it's a situation where if you can give him, again, like I'm thinking about a Miles Rice, I'm thinking about a Tony Perkins, somebody experienced. Perkins obviously spent a lot of time in the Big Ten. Rice was a freshman last year at Washington State, but he's not a freshman. I don't know if people know his background. He went to Washington State. I think he redshirted for a year, and he was actually diagnosed with cancer. So he basically that's one of those sort of special situations when the NCAA will usually agree to pause your eligibility clock and allow you to just kind of like continue being with your program and enrolled in school and everything, but not use up any of your eligibility. So he's a junior by age, essentially, and a freshman in terms of, or I guess a sophomore in terms of his eligibility. Or I guess if you think about it spinning forward, he is a senior by age and a sophomore by eligibility. So having somebody else there, I'm not saying Indiana would not be better for having another out-and-out point guard, maybe even somebody that is a little bit more traditional in that role than Trey Galloway is, although I think if you give Galloway a full off season, just kind of learning what he's learned from this past season and moving forward, I think that, probably helps. But again, I also come back to the idea that you can also go get, I'm looking at a player like a Jalen Blackman who you wouldn't really describe as a point guard as such. You look at like his work the last couple seasons. I mean, he's got an assist rate under 12% over the last 2 seasons, but you're talking about a player that is used to using a really large percentage of his team's possessions, is just used to having the ball in his hands a lot. And somebody like that, and I don't mean to just kind of like make I don't know if they're lazy or not, but the Lance Jones comparison again, the Purdue comparisons, but Jones is not an out-and-out point guard by any means. He is very much a 2. But when Purdue puts the ball in his hands to bring it up the floor, to get the offense moving, maybe to start a secondary break, maybe to find something at the end of the clock, or when Braden Smith's in foul trouble or something, he's more comfortable with it than your average 2. You can tell that in a previous life, he was just his team's best player, and he was the player that needed to have the ball in his hands, whatever that entailed. And I think that it's if you can find players like that can also kind of give you some ancillary ball handling help as well.
And a player that's not even in the portal, to my knowledge, Ryan Conwell from Indiana State. And I mention that only because it is expected that the head coach, Schertz, is going to go to St. Louis. That has not been confirmed. That hasn't happened yet, but it's very likely to happen. If it does, there's going to be guys that go with him. But being from Indianapolis, I can see Ryan Conwell and what he would bring to Indiana. And then there's also, we keep forgetting about Ja'Kai Newton because we haven't seen him play.
Yeah, I mean, And Newton is, yeah, I mean, I listen, I have been on the Ja'Kai Newton train since the first time I saw him play. I think he is the comparison that I've used, and I've gotten stick for this, but I will stand by it. He reminds me a lot of Al Durham, but more athletic. And I'm not trying to knock Al, but Al didn't have a ton of bounce or explosiveness for a guard his size. What he did have, though, was just the remarkable sort of instincts of a basketball player that you just couldn't keep off the floor. I mean, he was ranked in like the 260s coming out of high school, and he still played 19 minutes a game as a freshman. And I remember even then Archie Miller just saying, he's the kind of kid I just can't keep off the floor. Like Al Durham's a winning basketball player. Al Durham finished his Indiana career with 1,000 points, 240 assists, 272 rebounds, and he shot near 36% from three, and 77% from the free throw line. If I told you were getting that player, but even more athletic, that's a really good basketball player. Like that's it, and I think Al Durham is one of a handful of players that probably gets painted a little bit unfairly by the time he played, the time period in which he played basketball in Indiana. But if I told you were getting that player, but even more athletic, that's a very good basketball player. And Newton is a guy that is very comfortable growing up around and playing with elite guys. He played with Stephen Castle. He played with, some guys that I think one guy wound up at South Florida. A whole bunch of his teammates went like low D1 or D2. So even the guys that maybe weren't stars on that Newton County high school team, or was it just Newton High School? I think it was just Newton High School. Were still really good basketball players, like for their level. And Ja'Kai was just one of those guys that kind of no matter what he needed, like he could figure out within the course of a game what he was going to be needed to do that night. Was he going to need to be a shooter, a scorer, a distributor? Did his team need him to rebound? Did his team need him to defend the other team's best player? He was a very smart player, solved problems really well, kind of in real time on the floor, could impact the game in a lot of different ways. I think he's a really good player personally. The only concern you have with him is just, it's kind of 2 years now dealing with this knee injury and the after effects of it. And, you obviously want to be careful with him. And you also just maybe to some extent need to see that, a player like that just be healthy for a long period of time to be confident that they can find kind of their best again.
Yeah, and Indiana, like you said, a lot of positions to fill. They've got a lot of guys that are scheduled to visit. They have been in contact with a lot of different guys, and anytime things could start happening once you get the visits in. But it's going to be a minute before they fill all these roles. It's going to take probably a little longer. I'm not saying it's going to be a long time, but it's going to be longer than probably the fans expect. It's not just going to be snap your fingers and fill these roles, because these guys have lots of options.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is that the portal kind of moves this way, and I compared it. Our friend Mike Glasscott and I on our radio show Thursday night, I compared it to the English soccer transfer window, where the activity kind of comes in these cycles. And, when the transfer window sort of first gears up at the end of a season, a soccer season, there's always a really small handful of deals that have kind of been worked out in advance. Maybe a player had a release clause in their contract, so the club could just pay it and negotiate a contract. And so a small handful of these deals kind of get confirmed like right away. And then there is kind of just this sort of natural sort of end of season energy. Suddenly there's no games to talk about. Everybody kind of turns their attention to the think pieces about what teams need and who teams will target and all this stuff. And everything kind of, there's this big surge of sort of energy and activity and attention. And then everything kind of dies down and people look around and say, why is my team not doing anything? Why are we not being proactive? We're, nothing's going on. We're wasting time. And what's really happening is a lot of things just need to happen behind the scenes. A lot of things just can't, happen over the course of 24 or 48 hours. They need time to develop and play out. And then there will be little surges, little spikes of, whatever here and there as different deals happen. Or obviously in the portal, you talk about different kids committing, visits and things. But there are just natural periods in the sort of life cycle of a portal window where things will quiet down. We're literally in the middle of a dead period. It started yesterday. It doesn't end until next Thursday. So like we quite literally are in sort of an enforced quiet period here. That's not it. I don't mean quiet period like the NCAA term. I mean, just in general. That's not to say you won't see anything happen in the portal, but certainly nothing in terms of players and coaches getting together, visits, things like that. That stuff can't happen for the next week. So it is a little bit of kind of hurry up and slow down, and you have to be patient. And listen, the flip side is if you're too cautious or you slow play it too much, yes, you risk winding up in a situation where you get kind of to the end and you're just like, oh man, we've got too much to do and not enough time to do it. But there's an extent to which you do have to preach patience through this process. And I think that's hard because everyone's perception, understandably, of the portal is that it is just a sprint because it's such a confined space of time. There's so many teams that need so much and so many players that need to go find homes. But even within that, you can't be moving at 120 miles an hour for 45 days. There are going to be some natural downtimes as well.
Zach Osterman with the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow to stay up to date on his coverage of the Hoosiers. Appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
Enjoy your weekend. Zach Osterman joining us from the Indy Stars. As I said, coming up, Rick Bozich will be joining us from WDRB.TV.com. And we're back with more. Brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg. For all of our Southern Indiana listeners, need to keep up with that championship smile. Go see our friend Dr. J at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. We're back with Rick Bozich soon after this. You there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he always misses. Oh, well, no coverage for Purdue, but we'll do it through Rick.
All right.
I'll just make this another short segment.
Okay. So I'll just count you in real quick since I can just add the commercial in later and then I'll stop you so we can get that last segment in. Okay. So we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, getting you ready for a gigantic sports weekend. Men's and women's Final Fours underway tonight with Caitlin Clark in Iowa, the Hawkeyes taking on Paige Beckers and the UConn Huskies. And Gino Ariema in his 5,000th Final Four. That'll be a great matchup to look forward to. Then you have the men's Final Four this weekend. Purdue trying to win their first national championship ever, playing in their first Final Four in 44 years. Talk more about that with Rick Bozich joins us. Eric Musselman, former Arkansas coach, now in the Big Ten at USC as they beginning next year. I'm wondering, is Keith Smart going with him? Or will he be a candidate, or is he a candidate for the Arkansas job? He been his number one assistant, so you would think that he has to be a candidate for that job, especially with his experience. We'll wait and see about that. And if so, we'll try to reach out to Keith and see if we can get him on. But Eric Musselman, moving on, USC as they join the Big Ten. Obviously going to have to upgrade basketball. UCLA coming into the Big Ten next year. It's going to be wild. We keep kind of forgetting that. Washington and Oregon as well. But he's only 59 years old. A 111-59 record and 3 NCAA tournament appearances at Arkansas. but he's heading west, which ain't a bad place to be out on the South Carolina or Southern California area. I mean, boy, Michael Lewis didn't exactly hate it when he was out there. Nobody hates it. Steve Risley, who joins us occasionally, former Hoosier, lives out there. He always bragging how wonderful it is that he's about to go surfing, which I'd like to see that. But Arkansas, they pick up $1 million on a buyout by Musselman under the terms of his current contract. He was making $4.5 or $4.2 million in Arkansas, but I'm sure that USC has covered that. That's chump change now that they're in the Big Ten. So Arkansas, look, they've had a list of great coaches. I mean, Nolan Richardson, you had Eddie Sutton was there, Stan Heath, John Pelfrey. And but since Sutton, Nolan Richardson, who obviously that was that 40 minutes of hell when he was there, but they back-to-back Final Four appearances, I think. But so it's going to be interesting to see who they get for a replacement. And like I said, Keith Smart, the former Hoosier great, who hit the shot. He hit the shot. The shot is not the watch shot. That's the second. Keith Smart hit the shot to win an NCAA tournament championship for Indiana back in 1987. So, and Keith Smart has a lot of NBA experience. It's going to be very interesting to see how that turns out. Wish him luck. If not, he probably heads west with Eric Musselman. But Andy Enfield is being replaced at USC after 11 seasons. But he left to go to SMU, which is odd. SMU joining the ACC, they must be really going to be pumping the money in. This is a school that raised like $110 million in a week to get out of, what was the Big 12 conference they were in? The buyout they had to pay. They raised that in a week. $110 million, people. So they're jacking their program up as they go to the ACC, which, man, do they have the money. Can you imagine if they were in the Big Ten? But Arkansas had kind of dropped off. Eric Musselman definitely raised them up, but it's ironic to see USC losing their basketball coach to a program that's just growing. But like I said, I'm sure the dollars are speaking. UCLA loses their head football coach to an OC position at Ohio State. So as those two programs or schools join the Big Ten, coaching changes. I think the coaching change on the football side for UCLA is going to benefit Indiana, even though Indiana had a coaching change. I think that the Indiana coaching change is just going to elevate their program, and it's going to elevate it immediately. I think Indiana, I've said this already multiple times, I am pretty confident that they end up in a bowl game next year. It's the buzz and everything that's going on, the way the program is being run, the upgrade in talent, the upgrade in coaching. Everything has just been upgraded. And it's sad that it's taken Indiana this long to get what you would call the right guy. And I have to be careful saying that because they haven't won a game yet. They've done nothing yet. This is all about buzz. And I acknowledge that, but the buzz is not coming from just hope. It's coming from things that is visual. You can see how the practices are run, the professionalism, the organization. It's a different ball game. And boy, does Indiana's schedule on football lay out for a potential great start. And I have already, I'm picking an upset in Los Angeles next year when Indiana goes to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. And if that happens, that will allow for a start potentially unprecedented for Indiana, as they start off with Florida International, their first game on August 31st. And I don't know if that's a week 1 game or is that week 0. We'll find out. But anyway, the second weekend is against Western Illinois, of course, so there's a 2-0 start. But UCLA is game 3, and I think that they upset UCLA. Of course, not the information that I would need on the UCLA side yet as well. Then they play Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern. They could potentially go, and then Nebraska at home, and then Washington with another new coach, and their program has been wiped out. I mean, and then a Michigan State team that's on the road. But can Indiana start the season 8-0? Is that possible? To do that, they would have to upset UCLA on the road, beat Maryland at home, beat Northwestern on the road, which I think they're playing in some make-do field next year. And you would have to beat Nebraska at home. That's going to be the toughest game that I think. Washington comes to Bloomington after that for the 8th game. Nebraska and Rule has them, they're rolling. They're in year 2. So that could be the biggest or the first loss for Indiana next year. Who knows? We'll see. We've got Rick Bozich coming up next. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to the captain about all that's going on coming up this weekend. Lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg. Keep up that championship smile. Go see our friend Dr. J. And we're back with more right after this. I wonder if he forgot, because this is not his normal day. Everybody got moved around. Superman going into the
doing my best Clark Kent. I played a Flanders type character in the last play I was in, and I have some fake glasses in there I could throw on, and I'd really be Clark Kent.
Flanders? Oh.
From The Simpsons, it was a character type. I mean, it wasn't a Simpsons play or anything, but my character was very similar. Very similar. It was like Flanders meets Will Ferrell from Old School.
Russell, I agree with you. I'm
a teacher, Russell.
No, I'm saying I'm agreeing with Russell. You've got to wait till it plays out. I still don't think, no matter what, I don't think he's a great coach. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's a very good college coach, but he's learning on the job because of the differences and again, because of the effort that it really takes. It takes much more effort than the NBA, because in the NBA, you have a general manager who gives you the players. You have virtually no input. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say you don't have any input, but the general manager's job is to get the players. That's where the difference lies.
All right.
Oh, man. God dang it. Not having Rick really sucks. Wait a second. If we can, I'm hoping he would. I texted him. So
Russell was asking why I changed clothes. I'm a teacher, Russell, so I have to go educate.
After here he leaves and goes to do his.
That was a nice crack.
Oh yeah, that was weak. I'm surprised you heard that. Yeah, that was weak. There was somebody that I wanted to comment. Oh yeah, Shelly. It's a good question. I'll address that when we come back.
Yeah, that's a good question. All right, I guess I'll go ahead and count you in. So here we go in 5, 4. And how do you know I have pants now, Brian? 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Appreciate you being with us. A Friday of sports extravaganza, basketball. Hoopapalooza is what it should be called. Shelley asking in regards to Indiana recruiting, several of the guys Indiana's looking at have 1 year of eligibility left. Does that leave IU in the same position the following year? Absolutely. She says she doesn't see the stability being created. Well, you have to wait until they finish getting the guys, but that's the new era. You have guys that are going to leave every year off of a team. It is, unfortunately, you would like to get to a point to where you don't have that many holes to fill. But a big part of that means you have to have a good core of the team that wants to stay, number one. So you have that continuity. You're always going to have holes to fill. Don't get me wrong. You're always going to have somebody or some bodies that hit the portal. They don't get the playing time they want. They don't work out, whatever the case may be. So it's not going to be like it was in 1985, 95, 2005, even 2015. The game has changed. The rules have changed. So that's how it is. And it's unfortunate, but you look at Purdue, they're one of the only schools that have been able to get around that. Matt Painter has done a remarkable job not having a team built on transfers. Matter of fact, he's got one. He picked up a good one too. But it's going to be curious to see going forward how that works out for Purdue. It's worked out right now because they've had Zach Edey. Well, who the hell wants to leave a team that has a player like that on it? Nobody. And they're pretty deep with guys that get to play, but some of them don't get to play like they'd like to. Caleb First would like to play more. All those backup guys would like to play more. But they're on a team that has the potential to win a national championship. So they're not going to go anywhere. That's part of why I think that Purdue's been able to buck the trend, so to speak. But as the years go by, we'll see if that's able to continue. But right now, they've got a team that is playing for a national championship. At least they have the opportunity to do that if they get by North Carolina State tomorrow night. I think that happens. I see Purdue and UConn in the national championship game with UConn winning it. And as a matter of fact, we need to check our board. I don't have Pete here to remind me to do that. I can tell you one thing. I am way back. Let's see. Who is leading our own board? Mine. It's got mine. What position? I don't know what position I'm in, but it's way back. I've been way back for a long time. There we go. There's open the group. There we go. And I'm number 69, which probably in the middle somewhere. Justin Beard, dude, you were at the top of and Jason, first and second, both have UConn winning it. Let's see, Jason. We'll look at yours. Who do you have? You've got you've got North. Ooh, he's got North Carolina State in the Final Four. He didn't have Duke or Purdue, rather. He had Houston and Illinois, which was a good pick, which I had. But he's got UConn winning it. But he's got North Carolina State in the Final Four. So big help for you there. And let me check Justin's. Who you got, Justin B, in your Final Four? UConn, Illinois. Oh, my God. Did I just pull up the same one twice? Because that's the same Final Four. I think I might have. Let me go back and look again. Jason, I'll pull up Jason's. Make sure. Man, you guys have the same exact Final Four. That's amazing. UConn and North Carolina State in the championship game. I got to go back and check that. And UConn and North Carolina State in the championship game. Amazing. So I don't see a way that you guys don't finish first and second. But whoever is listed as Bob Knight's picks 1 is sitting right behind in third place. And all right, I'm not reading something right because you had Purdue as your champion. It's showing me the same Final Four for some reason. Why, I don't know. So forget what I said a second ago. I don't know why it's showing me the same. It shows that you don't have Purdue winning it all. But you do. Oh, I didn't go down to the Final Four. Damn it. I was looking at the Elite Eight. So now I got to go back. You've got UConn and Alabama in it. How about them apples? And North Carolina State and Purdue. Your championship pick is Purdue. Well, see how that. Oh, he had Illinois making the Final Four, so he doesn't have Alabama. But you got 3 out of the 4. Pretty amazing. Now I'm kind of understanding how that goes. Let me roll down a little further. And wow. All 4 of the Final Four. From now on, I've got to get Justin. Whatever your bets are from now on, you got to send them to me. This is freaky how good you did in this. It looks like you have the entire Final Four picked. Is that right? I mean, how is that even possible? Jason, you have. Do you correctly have the Final Four picked as well? It looks like you do. Yes. Dude, what the hell? You guys, all right, you guys need, if you all bet, you got to start sharing with me. Both have the Final Four picked, which is nuts. Now, the only way that they can be beaten, I think, is by Bob Knight's picks, who is listed as Bob Knight, so I don't know who it really is. But he has Purdue as the national champion, and that would be a difference maker. But incredible job, Justin B. and Jason, picking the Final Four correctly. Wow. Pretty good. North Carolina State, are you serious? Man, That blows my mind. Virtually everyone picking UConn to win it. So there's that. But thanks to everybody who participated in that. And we'll look forward to see what happens after these games are done. Unfortunately, Rick Bozich not able to join us today. Maybe because it was just a little different week for us off the last 2 days because of John being gone. And luckily it worked out for me because I was not feeling well at all. I'm feeling much better now that I have my voice back. At least it feels 90% back. Brian thinks that Bob Kravitz should appear in a fedora from now on. I agree 1,000%. I think he needs to represent, yes, things you didn't. Kraken. He's a cracker for the Kraken. Hockey, the Kraken. Dr. Drew says that DJ Burns is a much better passer than Edey. I don't disagree with that. I don't think Edey's a great passer. Right? Edey's just a giant. I know that everybody thinks I'm an idiot for saying that. He's the most dominant player in the game. Don't misunderstand me. He is the most dominant player in the college game. But he's the most dominant player in the college game because he's a giant. He catches the ball and puts the ball in the basket. I mean, it's just like having King Kong out there saying, catch ball, put ball in basket. What he does. And I say that the reason I say he's not a great player is because I'm looking forward. He is not going to be a dominant NBA player for multiple reasons. We've heard other people talk about, in the NBA, there's a 3-second rule on defense, much let alone on offense. He has to guard guys. He's going to have to guard guys that are going to be going everywhere. He's not going to be able to camp out in the lane on defense. He's still the most dominant player in the college game, period. No one has stopped it. Nobody. No one has been able to stop him. And so that doesn't, you got to you have to understand that I acknowledge he's the most dominant player in the college game. I just don't see him as a great basketball player because what is his skill set besides being a giant? If you've got a great 3-point shooter, he's a great shooter. If you've got a great point guard that can facilitate, get to the rim and cause havoc in this way or that way, they can become a great player. Everybody says that you can't use the size. Well, bull. I disagree. Larry Bird was 6'9". Okay. If he was 6'6", I think he still would have found a way to be an incredible freaking player. Not the player that he was at that spot, but he would have found a way to be a great player in another way because of his shooting. Magic Johnson, if he wasn't 6'9", if he was 6'5", I still think he would have been a hell of a point guard. He would have found a way to be a hell of a point guard. So that's what. It doesn't mean I think that I'm right. That's just my opinion, and that's what I say about it. But looking forward to the Final Four this weekend. It's going to be fun. I expect it to be UConn, Purdue, like I said. On the women's side, it's supposed to be Iowa and South Carolina. And if so, that would probably break the women's record that's probably going to be set tonight when Caitlin Clark takes on Paige Beckers in UConn. So looking forward to that. Also, over at Brownsburg High School, I'm going to be heading up and seeing those guys go at it. Montverde Academy, they play at 4:30 p.m. So I'll be heading there, and I'll have highlights and some interviews afterwards, as long as we're able to get that. Oakland A's moving to Sacramento, by the way. That's crazy. So looking forward to the Chipotle Nationals today. All kinds of basketball still going on. Great season for Indiana State. Let's see what happens now with the players left on there. And when Indiana starts landing some guys out of the portal is what's next to find out. And then, of course, we're back on Monday. Oh, my God, is it going to be a difficult day to wrap up everything that happened over the weekend, minus the men's championship game, which will be that night. But there will be the Chipotle Nationals will have concluded. The NIT will have concluded, which it already has. The women's Final Four will have concluded. And so we're going to have a lot of things to catch up on Monday. And Todd Leary will be with us, of course, as usual. Now he'll be filling in that spot for Don. Greg Rakestraw, we expect him to be with us as well. Travis should be with us. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, and he'll either be he should be in a good mood as I expect Purdue to win over North Carolina State, but that could be a fun game. They've got a point guard that we'll see if they can give Purdue trouble on the perimeter. But that's going to wrap it up for us today. We're so happy to have had you join us. So happy to have been back. Don't forget, Bubba's 33 down in Clarksville for our Southern Indiana listeners. Pizza, burgers, beer, great place to go catch these Final Four games. In addition to Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Mall Road. That's where I'll be watching some of these games that I'm not attending. But until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.